Happening now on Grid Tonight. Chip Ganassi Racing and Cadillac are parting ways. Will Ganassi remain in sports car racing in 2025? And what's next for General Motors' prototype program? Felipe Massa is going to court over the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix. Does he actually have a good case, or is he just wasting everyone's time? Hello to all of viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lamb, and with me is Joshua Birch and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index. We encourage everyone to comment in the chat, ask questions, and support us through Super Chat. Grid, we're just past 970 subscribers. Please subscribe today and help us reach the special milestone of 1,000. So we just have 30 more subscribers to go. Please tell your friends to subscribe. We're getting very, very close. I have a feeling that it's going to happen very soon. But Josh, take it away with our top story this evening.
Thank you, Kobe. I can't wait for when we get to 1,000 as well. And to kick off the Grid Tonight show, first supported by Marshall Pruitt from Racer.com, Chip Ganassi Racing and Cadillac will end their partnership in sports car racing at the end of the 2024 season. Now, Ganassi currently fields 2 Cadillac V-Series R entries, with the one entry in IMSA and the other in the World Endurance Championship. Mike Hull, the managing director of CGR, confirmed the news to Racer.com, noting the fantastic history they've had with General Motors, not ruling out working with them again in the future, but this chapter is coming to an end. According to Pruitt, sources told Racer.com that Action Express Racing will likely expand to a 2-car operation next year in IMSA, taking over the entry that is currently the number 1 Cadillac. Now, the link to this is in the video description to the full article. The photo here is courtesy of Chip Ganassi Racing. Kobe, starting with you, were you shocked by the news of Ganassi and Cadillac parting ways? And do you anticipate Ganassi staying in sports car racing next year?
Yeah, it was quite a big shock to see Ganassi and Cadillac splitting up. I honestly didn't expect to see this happen. I thought they would continue their partnership for at least several more years. But to hear this bombshell from Marshall Pruitt at Racer.com that Cadillac and Chip Ganassi Racing were going to be splitting up, it was definitely quite a shock to the system. It makes me wonder what's next for Chip Ganassi Racing. I know Chip Ganassi had that relationship with Ford when they ran the Ford GT in the GTLM and GT Pro classes, and there's been a lot of rumblings that Ford could potentially return to top flight prototype racing in several years' time. So with Chip Ganassi getting out of the deal with GM, it makes me wonder if we could potentially see Ganassi and Ford get the band back together and potentially go prototype racing together. So that's something that a lot of people were looking at. And in regards to Action Express expanding to a 2-car operation, that they've done that before in the past and been extremely successful. So I think Action Express will do a fine job if they end up getting a second Cadillac next year, so they can keep it under one umbrella instead of having a Cadillac distributed out to both teams. And regarding Chip Ganassi sports car plans in 2025, I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see what the team says. Not really sure what they're gonna be up to, but it would certainly be a shame to lose them in the top class because Ganassi, especially in IMSA, battling for the overall win, been in that top category. That's a sight that we've really gotten used to, and it would be strange once again to see them depart and not be there. And I'm not really sure if any other current manufacturers are going to be selling customer cars for that Ganassi could potentially get, or maybe there's another new manufacturer out there, that could run with Ganassi in the future. We just have to wait and see how this goes.
Yeah, big surprise. I didn't see this one coming at all. And a shame because it is the 01 that you mentioned in IMSA. They've also got the blue fronted car running in the World Endurance Championship as well. That's a Cadillac / Chip Ganassi Racing entry. So it does affect both of the big sports car championships, unfortunately. Just when everything was looking all rosy for Hypercar and GTP and everything. Hopefully this isn't the beginning of the walls crumbling in already after one round of the World Endurance Championship for this year and one round of IMSA, another one coming up, of course, this weekend, which we'll talk about in a little while. But real shame. Action Express, of course, were part of the development with the Ganassi. They helped each other really with the development of this car in the very beginning, worked quite closely together through testing. So not a surprise there to see that they're kind of half putting their hand up to say, oh, we'll have the chassis and we'll continue to run it, which is obviously good. But that Ganassi 01 car in IMSA probably should have won 3 or 4 races last year. They were in contention multiple times and had incidents. Did get one win off the top of my head, and maybe it was 2. I can't exactly remember without checking, but should have had a bunch more. And it's a real shame for this program to be going away, and not the first time we've seen sports car programs being pulled on the eve of Sebring, because of course Peugeot did it back in the day when the cars were sat in the paddock many years ago. But real shame to see this going away so early in its development, really, in only one season plus one race.
Yeah, no time at all to get used to the new technology. Adam Ridge is in the chat room saying, with this news, I think Ganassi should go back to Ford, maybe even Chevy, 2 more reliable units out there as well. I think Ford might be quite nice to see actually back there in the World Endurance Championship as a main supplier as well. Now, as we said, these two of Ganassi and Cadillac will split up after 3 years together, which began in 2022, in the last year of the DPI era. Now, followed by 2 years in IMSA's GTP class and WEC's hypercar class. Over in IMSA, we've seen the number 1 Cadillac win races and finish on the podium, while the number 2 Cadillac has yet to win a race, entering its second year in the World Endurance Championship. Now, Racer.com says United Autosports, TF Sport, and an unnamed European team are under consideration to take over Cadillac's WEC program. Now, could a European-based team be the best way moving forward for Cadillac instead of having an American team that needs to have a setup at a European base?
Well, when you think Cadillac, you think America, obviously. But here's a curveball I'd like to throw into this situation, and a European team which wants to get into the top class and has an American base. United Autosport. They could be in the ballpark for this, because we know that Zach Brown and Richard Dean really do want to get into the top class. They've got a couple of cars running in LMP2 in the IMSA paddock for the season, with Ben Keating involved, of course. So that could be an interesting tie-up if that was to come to pass. But I can't see the big American flag, Cadillac waving the flag for America really on the world stage with the blue number 2 car in WEC being run out of a European base here in the UK or in France or in Germany or somewhere like that. I think they would have to stay stateside. But I caveat that with the but that United Autosport very much might be in play if that is a possibility.
Yeah, I think United Autosports would certainly be a really great team to take over this Cadillac program in the World Endurance Championship. Like you said, Matt, Zach Brown, Richard Dean have wanted to be in the top class for quite some time now. They've been talking about it for several years, but United Autosports just hasn't been able to secure a deal with their manufacturer. And how about no better way for them to get in this top class than getting Cadillac's World Endurance Championship program. I think they would do a great job, because they're used to the championship, used to this environment. I think they will be able to get up to speed very quickly. I think a lot of people expected, United Autosports to get a McLaren prototype program going. I know we've heard the McLaren rumors for the last couple of years or so, but we really haven't heard anything besides the rumors of McLaren. We don't know one way or another if a McLaren prototype program is in the pipeline or not. And if it's not going to happen, United Autosports could just swoop in and, run a Cadillac across the world in the World Endurance Championship. I think that would be a really good thing for them. But yeah, Chip Ganassi it's been quite a struggle for Cadillac on the world stage. They've certainly had a lot more success than they've had in the World Endurance Championship. Yeah, I don't know what that's all about, but if the season opener race in Qatar was anything, it should be a very competitive season in the hypercar class for the first time in a long time. It seems like, Toyota actually has a fight on their hands. So looking forward to whenever the next race happens.
You took the words right out of my mouth there with Zach Brown and McLaren. For years, he was trying to get them in to the World Endurance Championship as well. And it looked like last when they were coming into Formula E and they were coming into Extreme, it was one or the other, and ultimately they decided to go electric rather than the hypercar area. Now, like I said, with Extreme going to hydrogen, it sort of saved them a bit of time. Now, do you see this? This is, I know it's green screen a little bit, this is a penny whistle. Now, this has become a very key topic around Formula One recently because it is whistle blowing. Who keeps blowing the whistles? Because this just keeps on getting worse and worse. Because as we discussed last year at around Zandvoort on the Grid Tonight show, rumours were circulating that Felipe Massa had put a legal team together after an interview with Bernie Ecclestone revealed that Bernie Ecclestone, Charlie Whiting, and Max Mosley all knew about the race fixing at the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix. Now, here today, we can tell you that Felipe Massa and his legal team this week have filed a lawsuit with the intent of overturning the results of the corrupted 2008 Singapore Grand Prix. For those of you unfamiliar, in 2008, Pat Fry, as well as Flavio Briatore and Nelson Piquet Jr., were practically convicted in the FIA Court of Appeal for race fixing the results separately in order to bring out a safety car that would benefit Fernando Alonso, his then teammate at Renault, as the race victor. This happened, and everybody at the paddock at the time suspected something, but nothing could be proved. Then in 2009, Nelson Piquet Jr. was fired from the Renault team, and he went to the FIA president, Max Mosley, and the then FIA race director, Charlie Whiting, as well as his father, and sat down and confessed to everything. This kicked off one of the biggest controversies in Formula One history, dubbed Spygate, and then Crashgate. So, what happened? Basically, Piquet crashed, they covered it up, Alonso won the race. But we all found out about it a year later at Singapore, and Flavio Briatore was kicked from the sport permanently. That was then relieved. Pat Fry was banned for 5 years. Piquet Jr. lost his job, but was acquitted of any penalty of driving Formula One because of the evidence he gave. That's basically where we ended up. Now, for years, we thought that was the end of it until in 2023, we heard Bernie Ecclestone stating that he knew about the plot in 2008 because Piquet Jr. had told him in 2008 before the end of the World Championship. And this was contrary to what we know from everything. So now Felipe Massa has filed this lawsuit in order to try and overturn the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix because the FIA knew about it before the end of the season. They should have been able to act on it, but didn't. Now, Bernie Ecclestone has since stated in an interview with Autosport that I would fully have supported him being Felipe Massa, as you see on your screen, if he came to me at the time and gone through an English judge to change it. Well, that's what's happening now. He's filed a claim. Ecclestone is a key figure in this case, as I said, after the initial spark that kicked off this saga. Of course, Charlie Whiting is the former FIA race director, passed away in 2019 due to a heart attack. And Max Mosley, who was the former FIA president at the time, all knew of this manipulation back in 2008 as well. The photo courtesy there of Williams Racing. Boys, we discussed this back at Zandvoort as well. Whistleblowing's been a big part of Formula One over the past 3 weeks or so. With Massa now taking this to court, Kobe, starting with, where do you see this saga ending up?
Hopefully it ends up with nothing coming from this. I think it would set a terrible, terrible, terrible precedent in motorsports if this goes into a courtroom and we overturn the results of a championship that happened in when? 2008. It's 2024 now. Why are we living in the past and yesterday's news? And today here we are many years later trying to. I don't even know what Felipe Massa is trying to do. I can't even explain it. I remember when this was first reported, months ago, that he was thinking about taking legal action. I was thinking, Felipe, what on earth is going through your head? Like, this doesn't make any sense to be harping on the past, something that happened a super long time ago. And it was unfortunate the way how this all unfolded in Singapore in 2008. But like a lot of things, there's nothing you can really do to change that. So I feel like he should have moved on from that a long time ago, or maybe Felipe just wants to get attention or something. But it doesn't really make any sense to me why he's taking this to a court. It just seems like a waste of time and a waste of money. And hopefully nothing comes of this, because like I was just saying, I think it would set a horrible precedent for motorsports. Got a comment here in the chat room from Ben Snyder saying that championships been decided in a courtroom should absolutely never happen. If Felipe somehow gets this overturned, it may set a dangerous precedent for situations like Abu Dhabi 2021. That's a very good point, man. If Felipe Massa ends up getting, for some crazy reason, ends up getting this championship back from 2008, what would happen in 2020? Was Lewis Hamilton gonna, then take it to court and get his championship from Max Verstappen? I think it would just open a can of worms. So for the sake of for motorsports in general, I really hope that this will not happen. And Joe Samniego, hey Joe, hope you're having a great night, is also asking, would Massa even want to be known as the first world champion to win in this way? At this point, he probably wouldn't care to be honest. Just to say that he was a world champion, but certainly a lot of people would not be pleased if he were to be awarded the championship that was decided quite a handful of years ago. It's just a really crazy story.
Yeah, crazy story. Just to add on to a few more details from Josh's breakdown there at the beginning, I'll wind you back to 2008. Some people may not know what happened during that Singapore Grand Prix. Just quickly before I do that, Ben says, let's give Mark Martin the 2007 Daytona 500 because NASCAR should have thrown the yellow. Let's give J.R. Hildebrand the 2011 Indy 500 because they did throw the yellow before Weldon passed him. Yeah. As I said, Ben, before we went on air, which obviously you didn't hear, well, we're just getting ready to go. If Felipe Massa somehow manages to overturn this and win the case, motorsport is absolutely ruined for all time. So back in 2008 at the Singapore Grand Prix, in qualifying on the Saturday, Fernando Alonso had a pretty decent car going for Renault, but he made a mistake in Q2, ended up parking it down underneath the by the football ground and on the front, which they now don't use anymore, ended up running down the escape road, got stuck. That put him back in the field. In the race, he then took a quite early pit stop, and then the PK accident happened in that same sort of area on the racetrack. They would have had to throw a safety car. They did. Of course, Fernando, excuse me, had already made his pit stop, so he vaults to the top of the field and then ends up taking the race win because, of course, as we know in Singapore, it's very difficult to overtake. And back in 2008, it was even worse for overtaking than it is now. We get to the middle of 2009, as Josh said. PK's having a terrible run in the then new Renault as the rules changed. We all know about Jenson Button's tremendous 2009 season. Renault were terrible. He got the flick I think it was Hungary or after. He got given his marching orders. Romain Grosjean came in to replace him, and then it all came out. If you watch that 2008 Singapore Grand Prix live, you would have gone, something fishy there, or they got very, very lucky. That Alonso had made his pit stop and vaulted to the top. Lewis Hamilton came third in that Grand Prix. And of course, Hamilton then won the championship by a point. As we all know what happened in Interlagos. Is that Glock? Yes, it is, etc., etc. The rest is history. So Felipe, what he wants to do is remove the Singapore Grand Prix from that year's championship. What happened to Felipe Massa in that Grand Prix, you may ask yourself? Well, he ended up parked at the end of the pit lane because under that safety car, which was caused by Nelson Piquet, he left his pit box with the fuel hose still attached. And he ended up parked at the end of the pit lane and didn't score any points. Also in that year at Hungary, he was leading with 2 laps to go and blew an engine. Didn't score any points. Heikki Kovalainen got his first and only Grand Prix win. At Silverstone that year, just a couple of weeks before, he had 5 spins during the Grand Prix. Didn't score any points.
Fuji.
Oh, it's one race that has caused all of this grief and 1 point. As I say, if this gets overturned somehow, and Ben's brought up some things there, all things are ruined. That IndyCar championship we had a few years ago when it came down to a tie between Scotty Dixon and JPM, what had happened with that? Someone would say something. The whole chase format would be ruined because people would say, oh, I had an engine blow up, surely I should get my points back. It's silly. It's a waste of time and effort and money. And as we're going to come on to in a minute, this doesn't need to happen with all the other stuff that's going on right now. I almost swore there and I had to mute myself.
Let's not forget Fuji, of course, where he hit Hamilton at the chicane and put Hamilton to the back. I mean, there's so many that year.
And he had an engine blow up at Melbourne in the first race, didn't score.
Yeah, and then he spun off it. No, that was Hamilton. Raikkonen spun off in Malaysia a week later. Yeah. It was mad. Let's not forget as well, Massa made more mistakes in 2008, was still in a position to get the title, won the race in Brazil, but that was the only race that year that he actually did well. That no problems throughout. Because it was just constant drama that year. He was having problems in practice. He was qualifying bad. It was all down to race pace. And yeah, Brazil was the only one who did right. And it just people have been messaging me throughout the week when this came up, waiting for the Grid Tonight show because of what I said last time out. Like Felipe, just let it go. That's what I said when we were back in Zandvoort. I think it's gone far beyond that now. I think Felipe needs a bit of psychiatric help because if he in any way believes this is going to happen, he is more deluded than Emerson Fittipaldi was. I think he'd get away with drinking orange juice, not milk.
He did actually win 6 races in that year. He was the leader in the win column. 6 for Felipe, 5 for Hamilton, and then 2 for Raikkonen.
He got gifted Belgium. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to come to next. Yeah. There was it rained, didn't it, late in the race at Spa, and I think it was Lewis behind Kimi who crashed at Blanchimont, and then they had the race out of the bus stop. Lewis lifted to give the position back, and then lost the race on a silly penalty, which
you can't overtake after giving it back.
After you've given a position back, which was just stupid.
Wasn't the rules?
As you said at the time, Josh, the whole Spygate McLaren stealing Ferrari's ideas thing was going on. It was an absolute total mess. And as you mentioned, Kobe, we're just bringing up old ground again. We talked about this before Christmas, as you said, Josh, last summer when this came out. It was like, what are we doing here? And it's just an absolute joke. I'm sorry, Felipe, you've lost your mind.
You brought it onto the right point as well. I said, is it the right time to bringing all this drama up? Because we've got the current situation with Red Bull, Christian Horner, Helmut Marko, the time Austrian owners battling over control, employees suspended as well. That's now fact as well. The entire paddock apparently seeing a Google document allegedly containing evidence. Red Bull then going and confirming that evidence is apparently true because they directly mentioned the leak from saying that we could have people suspended because of it. It's like Red Bull can't keep their story straight. And then we've got the FIA trying to keep their story straight and keeping a lid on Mohammed Ben Sulayem, who is apparently interfering in race results in Las Vegas. Saudi. Preventing Las Vegas from happening was another one. And then we've got Formula One with Stefano Domenicali having an open war with the teams who are saying 24, the teams, the media, everybody, even the fans, 24 races is too much plus 6 sprint races. You've got to cut it back to the point where everyone's going, well, we can't be at every race. We can't do this anymore. It's getting too much. And now you've got the situation where it's like, this is ridiculous. It feels like they're throwing anything at the wall to see what could distract us, and it's not working.
Yeah, it seems so. I mean, I heard in the week there was an interview that Helmut Marko had done pre-season or post-end of last season, and he called Lewis Hamilton a Freudian slip, an 8-time world champion, which he was picked up on. He went, oh, well, he's an 8-world. He is an 8-time world champion to me. Also, a very strange comment considering his driver then ended up winning the championship. But as Ben mentioned, that will be the first one, won't it? If this goes through, the massive thing, I mean, we've still got all of this year to run. Goodness me, we've only 2 races in. But if we go back a couple of years, that is absolutely going to be the first one that goes straight to the top of the queue of, what can we do about this?
Michael,
but then again, as you said, Josh, when Lewis left, and as Lewis left, maybe now they will get their 2008 world champion in some way, shape, or form because Hamilton's going to be a Ferrari driver.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a bit weird, that isn't it? Because, that's true, actually. They Ferrari do get it, but it is weird because Massa's now going to call Ferrari to back him, but Lewis is now contracted to Ferrari. I think we said it just when it came out. I said this, didn't I? When we got the news. I said, this is the smartest play in history to stop him talking because Ferrari now can't talk about this court case because they have a conflict of interest. It's the smartest play in history. Oh, it's fantastic. If we're wrapped up on this topic, I can try and play something on the penny flute if we need time, but I'd much rather hand over to Kobe.
Do the chain on the penny flute.
Hang on a minute. Hang on, I'll do it. I'm not good at that, but there you go. Hang on, I can do better. Hang on. I can't do it. Hang on. I'm trying to do. Do you remember that inner light thing from Star Trek with Picard? That one he plays in the penny flute. Oh, Google it. That's what I'm trying to learn, and it really is impossible. I'm trying to get Pop Goes the Weasel as well, but yeah, I play the penny whistle now.
Pop Goes the FIA.
Yeah. Oh, that's just. Get the alarm! He said something again. Get pencil. I am out there. Anyway, over to you, Kobe, with more news from the motorsport world.
Thanks, Josh. And there you go, live musical performance here on Great Tonight. Not every week, but tonight it's perfectly fine. But before we get into more news around the world, I'm gonna post this comment from Mouse Evil said Action Express running 2 Cadillacs in IMSA and TF Sport running 2 in WEC would mean expansion of the Cadillac LMDH program. Well, according to the reporting from Marshall Pert from Racer.com, he's saying that according to his sources, it's most likely that Action Express is going to be running 2 Cadillacs next year, while it's just up in the air of who could run the World Endurance Championship program. We don't know if they're going to have 2 cars in the World Endurance Championship or just one, like you see right now in Ganassi. But it seems like TF Sport and United Autosports are the teams who are in contention for that program. So, but Cadillac is certainly going to be announcing. Well, they're certainly going to announce their plans for 2025 in the future, and we'll cover that here on Grit Tonight once we get the official announcement. And got a comment from Ben saying "Grit Tonight, the musical," in response to Josh. and here's another great comment from Mouse Evil saying, and Josh, Mouse Evil challenged you to do the F1 intro. Challenged you to doing that.
I'll get better. I'm not even using it. It's just I'm just blowing a whistle there. I'm trying. I can't read music sheets. That's why I'm going half blind at the moment. I need my glasses on to read the music, and I'm being taught by it as well. But yeah, what's this one?
Yeah, I agree.
Totally. Ben says if Lewis loses 2008 but gains 2021, he still has 7. He evens all out. He says there's nothing wrong with this, so we'll basically be exactly where we started in the worst case scenario. And Joe's also adding in the chat, super chat $10 if you want more music, and we'll mail you Grid Network sticker. So there's a shameless plug there. And lastly, we'll finally move on to more motorsports news from around the world before something else happens unexpectedly. So Trackhouse Racing development driver Connor Zillage will make his NASCAR Xfinity Series debut later this year. The 17-year-old will drive the number 88 Chevrolet for Junior Motorsports at Watkins Glen after his 18th birthday. This should be a good place for Zillage's debut because of his past success on road course in the Trans Am Series. I'll also run 3 additional Xfinity races toward the end of the year at Kansas, Homestead, and the season finale at Phoenix. Zillage said it's a dream come true to drive for Junior Motorsports and has a lot to learn when he gets on the bigger tracks for the first time later in the season. Graphic courtesy of JRM. And some big news from MotoGP. MotoGP struck a brand new television deal in the United States with TNT Sports. Every sprint and Grand Prix will be shown live, starting with last weekend's Grand Prix of Qatar. True TV and Max's BR Sports add-on will show every race, including pre-race coverage. Additionally, Max's BR Sports will stream every session for every Grand Prix class across all days of on-track activity, which includes the MotoGP qualifying shootout and the Moto2 and Moto3 races. So lots of MotoGP coverage here in the United States on TNT Sports. Toyota Gazoo Racing factory driver Kamui Kobayashi will make his second start in the NASCAR Cup Series next weekend at Circuit of the Americas. Kobayashi made his Cup debut last year at the IMS road course and finished 33rd. He'll return to 2311 racing to drive the number 50 Toyota as a teammate to Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick. Later this year, the World Endurance Championship will also race at COTA for the Lone Star Le Mans, a race that you'll see Kobayashi driving his Toyota Hypercar. And on an additional note, Danny Kvyat, the ex-Formula One driver, will make his NASCAR return, driving the number 07 Chevrolet for SS Greenlight Racing in the Xfinity race at COTA. And now I'm going to turn over to Matt for everyone's favorite game, Pick a Winner.
Yeah, that was out of the blue news that Kvyat was coming back to Xfinity, but here we go in a couple of weeks at COTA. There is the updated Pick a Winner standings post what a busy weekend it was with IndyCar, MotoGP, the Saudi Grand Prix, and of course NASCAR. We have a tie at the top between our own Matt B and Ben Schneider. They are a point clear of Adam, and Cody is 4th. Our other on-show regulars, I am 8th, and Josh, I'm trying to find you on the list. You're all the way down in 20th.
I know.
Must do better, my friend. We have 2 races, we've got 3 races to do in Pick a Winner this weekend. That'll be on social media in the coming days. We've got NASCAR Cup Series at Bristol, Formula E back after its 18-month hiatus for round 4 of the season at Sao Paulo. We're going to do Sebring tonight with the IMSA round 2, the Sebring 12 hours, which is on Saturday. We've talked about Action Express on the show tonight, and as I'm on screen, I'm going to take them off the table and use them as my first pick. I'm going to go with the 31 of Pico Durrani, Tom Boston, and Jack 18-2 win on Saturday.
Yeah, Cadillac, it should be extremely strong this season, but I'm going to go with Acura to get the job done. I think for the Rolex 24, I went with the number 40, but for Sebring, I'm going with the number 10, Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Global Acura to get the job done and win the Mobile 1 12 hours of Sebring. Josh, who you got?
I'm sticking with the Porsches after what we saw last time out at Daytona as well. So I'm going with number 7 Porsche to take the win. Do a double. They've got a very tight unit of drivers. And I know V9 Engineering Racing was close in terms of the championship last year, taking the champions and starting on pole position for the Rolex. But nah, they have, in my opinion, still got a bit of work to do with that car. So I'm going with the 7 Porsche. Porsche will be dominant. There we go. From Mouth People. Even they agree. So yeah, I'm hoping to get me some points on the board. But yeah, I do desperately need them. I might have to start doing the Pied Piper and singing. But then again, Max Verstappen does that. Basically, if you want to pick a winner this year in Formula One, you pick Max Verstappen, and then you just wait to see what other 19 cars do around them. That's basically how it is. Our life is just we get up, watch Max Verstappen win, and go back to bed.
And you'll be doing that at the very early hour for us in the UK in Melbourne, I'm sure, next weekend. Time for hots and nots, of which I've actually written them down this week because there's so many. And I forgot a couple last week, but they're still relevant, so I'm going to roll them out tonight. Josh, we'll start with your hots from what was a tremendously busy weekend.
Enzo Fittipaldi getting
Yes.
a race win at the circuit where he had his worst ever crash and almost took his life. I thought that was fantastic. I was like, redemption, poetry. And only a couple of weeks after his uncle passed, you could visible tears on the F2 podium in the feature race. Fantastic. Absolutely. That was one of my hots. Behrman is another, obviously.
Yeah.
What a drive. And he's testing, actually. He's been testing at Fiorano in a 22 car, I believe, just in case Sainz isn't ready for Melbourne, which I don't think Sainz will be. He's gone back home, but appendix surgery plus the recovery with a 24-hour flight to Australia, plus all that, I don't think he's ready for Australia. It's too soon. Definitely, I think Japan a week later, but I think we're going to see Behrman in for Australia, which again harms massively his F2 championship, missing effectively pointless for 3 rounds. I liked what we saw in MotoGP in terms of a little bit of a tweak to the format because of the rain on Friday. I liked the 45-minute session on Saturday morning. I wish we just have one free practice session, then a practice, then go into qualifying. We still don't need as many as we do. That's a bit of a knot. But it was such a busy weekend. I really actually enjoyed the NASCAR. I don't know many people did on the short track. And I actually enjoyed commentating on that one more than Las Vegas. I thought it was a very action race strategy call. Stage 1 was quite interesting, only being so short. Pit stops coming for stage 2 and stage 3. Stage 2, we're starting a new thing, by the way, Matt. You might find it when you join us in COTA.
We do COTA in a couple of weeks, yeah.
Yeah, we're calling it the Stage 2 podcast because there was no cautions, nothing going on. So we just basically all chatted for 45 minutes to an hour. And then stage 3 went nuts, as it always does. And that's about it, really. I can't think of any more hots. It was a very long weekend. What have you got?
Yeah, it was. I had Behrman, obviously, tremendous. And you mentioned that's going to be, he didn't score any points in Bahrain. Did he get points for pole? Do they still do that? I can't remember.
He did.
To collect those points?
No, because he was withdrawn.
He didn't take the start.
Yeah, so maybe got them.
Yeah. So if he doesn't if he doesn't run in Melbourne, which of course is an F2 round, more on that in knots in a moment, then that's scuppered any chance of Ollie Behrman winning the championship, but he might not need to. My other Formula One hot from what we talked about the new track, didn't we, last week? But goodness me,
Oh, the
generation, really.
amazing Saudi Arabian track that everybody's promoting.
Yes, and I keep seeing it every single time I go on Twitter. The ad tweet every single time, but quickly diddly 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 diddly. That's a knot, by the way. But my other hot from the Grand Prix was, even though he got every time penalty thrown at him under the sun, the widest Haas ever, Kevin Magnussen. I thought that was, for the team run that he put together to get Nico Hulkenberg his point, I thought was tremendous. But again, his head might be on the chopping block if Oliver Behrman can't get to Ferrari, which of course he won't be able to because they've got Lewis and Leclerc signed up. Other hots from the weekend, the Indy Next field has ballooned. A couple of years ago, when it was the last year of lights, it looked like it might be the last year of lights, and it was going to be the end of that because there was such a low car count. We had 20 plus at St. Pete at the weekend. They've got an extremely long break now until they get back into action at Long Beach. No, Barber. They go to Long Beach.
It's
Barber,
Barber,
at Barber. But the field was strong, and again, much like the Cup race at the weekend, the best car won in Nolan Siegel. And my last hot is Team Penske. Get this, right? We're on, what's the date today? The 13th of March, 2024. Get this for Team Penske in this year already. Rolex 24, tick, leading the championship. World Endurance Championship, Qatar 1812, tick, leading the championship. Joseph Newgarden, St. Petersburg, tick, leading the championship. Ryan Blaney, Atlanta by that much, lead the championship. What more can Team Penske do as a racing team?
I can put that together.
Yeah, no, I've stolen that from someone else, but what an incredible start to the year, the calendar year for Roger and Tim and that whole group. Got a chance to add to it with the 12 hours on Saturday, and of course the Bristol Cup race. That concludes my hots. What about on the other side of the coin? Here we go. Josh has already got his arms crossed. He's ready for Knots Hall quickly from Ben. Lee Diffie back in the NASCAR booth is a hot. We wait for confirmation on that. I'm sure we'll be talking about it on the show next week. Not Behrman not being allowed to continue in. Yes, I don't know. Ben was quite upset that Ollie couldn't do the double duty deal in a Kyle Busch style, but them's the rules, as they say. What more can they do? Try to start an F1 team, invest. Yes, yeah, indeed.
Well,
maybe they will.
This is the thing. GM now not with Ganassi. Could they decide, okay, we'll pull out completely, focus on Formula One with Andretti. Let's go for a proper launch.
Yeah, maybe.
So,
maybe. What have you got for Knots?
Domination. just domination. IndyCar, Newgarden dominated. He led all but 8 laps from that first race. Then we have Max Verstappen winning, like 1 billion races in a year. He's now won 9 in a row again. In Australia, he will make it 10, equaling his own record in 10 in a row. And I just think, what on earth is going on? Because Max has won, I think, 56 out of the last 64 races, something insane like that. And it's mad. And not even Hamilton had a run like that. Not even Schumacher. Nobody has had a run like this in terms of the percentages of just dominating. And fair dues to Red Bull, to Adrian Newey, and to Max Verstappen. They have built one hell of a car. It is amazing. And year on year, the evolutions and the revolutions, they are brilliant. But when are we going to put our hands up and admit that Ross Brawn is an idiot? He screwed up these regulations like crazy. And 10 years ago now, we brought in these V6s. It hasn't worked. And then now we've brought in these aero rules. It hasn't worked. Formula One has effectively not only been shot, but it has been shot, hung, guillotined, and mugged. It's no longer Formula One. It's not. It's the slowest, It's the most boring, it's the most predictable, it's the most painfully behind technology sport ever. It's ridiculous. Yeah, we've got these hydrogen fuels coming in, but we're sticking with a turbocharged V6 engine, which is now so far behind what the rest of the world will use. It's unbelievable. We need to be, if this is renewable fuel, we need to have normal aspirated engines to prove it's worth it. And it should either be V8s or V10s. It shouldn't even be a question. The V6 hybrids worked for a time, for like a year, because then Formula E came in and electric power was done, and that's more road relevant. Now it's hydrogen with the hypercars and everything there, and even Extreme E going to hydrogen for all that. Formula One chose, we won't go down that route, we'll go down synthetic fuels, but we'll stick with the stupid V6s. Turbocharged. Why? They don't provide good racing. And it's really bugging me that Formula One at the moment is in a state of domination, and it has people in charge who are plainly ignorant. I can't, you know what I mean? Arrogant and ignorant. I can't even pronounce that one correctly. And it needs a change. And I've been stewing on that because I'm not enjoying the Formula One races. I'm not.
No.
There was some good action in the pack, and the best action we saw on the weekend was over 15th place.
Yeah. Yeah, it was someone
mad.
going 2 seconds a lap slower than everybody else.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's not fun anymore. And I much more enjoy commentating on NASCAR and everything else. 46 out of the last 69 for Max dating back to Abu Dhabi 2020. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
Isn't that just insane?
To add to that, I watched on Saturday morning the 2004, sorry. 2004? Yes, 2004. Belgian Grand Prix.
The one where they crashed at the top of the hill with Sato and all that lot, and the little five and the two doors.
Yes, they crashed at the top.
Yeah.
Yes, it had 7 different race leaders from 4 teams.
Yeah.
There was only 20 cars, same as there is now. Maybe it might have been 18 actually, but it was just better.
Yeah,
People
and Raikkonen won. Yeah,
Raikkonen won. It was the second race of that year. At that point that Schumacher had been beaten. The other one was Jarno Trulli at Monaco.
Matt McLaren was a dog as well.
McLaren was a dog. It was awful. Alonso probably should have won, but he spun off on his own oil. Just after taking the lead in the middle of the race. Jenson Button had a tyre failure at the top of the hill at Lake Com, and took out poor on top Baumgartner, who was just driving down the side of the road and got impaled by BAR. And it was just better. I think we do need to get back to some of that. I know they also said, the V6 hybrid was going to be bringing in more engine manufacturers. We've got one ready to come, and they turned them away.
Brought Honda back. Honda left. Honda then came back, and then Renault disappeared.
Oh, there you go. Ben's updated his fact. 47 out of 69. So
we can't make it straight. There's too much. It's too.
Yeah. There's too many races, and they're all being won by the same person. Other knots from the weekend. I'll go back to what we've had as a knot last week. Alpine again, especially Pierre Gasly. It's just like didn't even basically take the start.
Jackson's fault.
A NASCAR knot, and it wasn't the race because I thought the race was decent, and that's what we get at Phoenix. And if you've never seen a Phoenix race before, then that's what we get at Phoenix, and you shouldn't be berating it and voting no on the poll, Jeff Gluck. And the knot was Austin Dillon at the moment, who just cannot seem to catch a break in any way, shape, or form, and his race was ruined on lap 5 when he ran into the accident that was happening in front of him. A knot that I should have done last, basically. A knot that I should have done last week, and I forgot, but it still is true for this week. We've got the Melbourne Grand Prix coming up next weekend. In the mid to late noughties, there was no F2 or GP2 as it would have been then, or F3 going to the Melbourne Grand Prix. You had F1 as obviously the main race. They were supported by Porsche Carrera Cup Australia and Supercars, and maybe another. There used to be a celebrity race there from time to time. Supercars had its own pit lane built for it at the top of the pit lane. As you're coming off the final corner, it's on the right hand side. That used to be a straight run in at the beginning of Melbourne. There was a little chicane there, but they took that away to the speed line. They built them their own pit lane. Here you go. no one's coming really for the F1. The supercars are bringing the fans to the Albert Park Grand Prix because that's what we get on the telly here, and it's big business, etc., etc. Thanks to a certain Netflix show, F1 has boomed in Australia as well as it has in the States, and the Melbourne Grand Prix sold out in about 2.4 seconds when the tickets went on sale last year for next weekend, and it's got the longest contract now of any Grand Prix. I think 11 more years, and it's the opening race of the year next year. And supercars are continually just being edged off to the side. Last year, they lost their pit lane. It was given to F2, and they had to do sprint races with pit stops made up in the pit lane with just the wheel guns and etc. etc. This year, they've lost their paddock space, and they're being tossed out the back, out of the way at the outside of turn, whatever the right-hand corner is at the end of the back straight, all the way out there, nowhere near any of the main action. That's where the support paddock is for supercars. It's also not a public viewing spot, so the public can't even go down and see your David Reynolds, your Brock Feeney's, your Mark Winterbottoms, etc., from the supercars paddock because it is not a public area. Supercars tried to get this annulled and overturned, and they were told by the F1 Commission and the Australian Grand Prix Corp, no, we have been told you're not allowed to have people in that area, H&S, etc., etc. So if you're going to the Melbourne Grand Prix next year, the only cars you'll be able to get up close and personal with are the Porsches, whose paddock is behind the main grandstand on the front straight, in some shape or form, as far as I've been told. It's time for supercars to say, you know what? We've had enough of coming to the Australian Grand Prix if we're going to be treated like second-class citizens. And they should go to Phillip Island the week before or after and put on a show.
Yeah.
They don't go to Phillip Island. They haven't done for about 10 years because it didn't really produce great racing. But we've not tried it with this new supercar, the car, and I think it's time for us to give it a go. And if they're being treated like this by FOM and F1 and even the AGPC, I'm sorry, we're not the big show in town anymore. We'll go. We'll disappear off. I think I've frozen on screen as well.
Oh, good.
But hopefully you can still hear me.
I can hear you.
Good. So yeah, awful, just terrible the way that they've been treated. And it's just flashed up in the chat from Kobe. He's not, and I'm going to steal it. Was the whole Dorian Pan situation from the Formula One Academy race 2? She dominated the weekend, and for the team deciding not to tell her that the race had finished, she then ended up losing the race. They were too busy slapping each other on the back and not listening to her on the radio when she was even asking what lap we were on the cool down lap. So the radio was clearly working, but yeah, not good enough. Not good enough at all. And the penalty was absolutely terrible.
In my opinion, it was the fault of the FIA and it was the fault of the race stewards and the marshals. They should have put out the flags like they usually do to tell the drivers that's the end of the race. They didn't.
Use the light boards.
Yeah.
Use the light boards. Put the checker flag on the light boards.
Yeah.
Once all the cars have crossed the finish line, put the checker flags on the light boards.
I agree. And to be fair, Meg, I know some people have made a couple of jokes on that thing, but Megan made a great one. Where it was like Finding Dory. Like just keep racing, just keep racing. Megan, that's a Megan joke, by the way. She's claimed that, and I think she's going to say it next time out. I think when they get back in Miami. So, have we finished all of the knots from the weekend?
Yeah, that's it. That's my list of knots.
Fantastic. I think we're going to have more next weekend though, because we've got Formula E in Sao Paulo. Always provide some interesting ones. I'm sure NASCAR will be fun at Bristol as well. So, taking a look at our upcoming schedule for this week, on Saturday, the Grid Live pre-race is before Formula E. How brilliant is that? We actually get to preview that race as well because we're in Sao Paulo, Brazil on a Saturday race. So we get to preview it then. Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up. That's 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Bristol. Monday, Grid Live Encore, recapping just the truck race at Bristol as well this weekend. And then, of course, we're back in a week's time for Grid Tonight and Women in Motorsport show as well on Fridays. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very, very much for getting us to 970 subscribers. And please, please, please do help us. We're so close now to get to that very special number that every YouTube channel dreams of reaching 1,000 subscribers. We are almost there. Help us get to the checker flag as we take the road to 1,000 as well. You can hit the bell icon to get notifications when we go on air and follow all our social media platforms and visit gridranking.com. You can also take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. You can join Colin, Mark, Deshelle, Robin, David, and Matthew, who invest each month in the Grid Network. And we encourage you to join these fine folks who keep us on the air. And once we hit $500 per month, we can start expanding our coverage and sending teams out to the track to cover more races as well. The link to all of that is in the video description, and hopefully get me some better hair green screened as well. Now, if you want to do a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link and consider getting your name on the board and invest as much as you want, and consider buying a specific on-air personality, and they'll thank you on the air. You can also support us by donating during our live streams through Super Chat, and for all of those here, we're very thankful for you as well. So for Kobe Lambeth and Matt White from Grid Performance Index, I'm Joshua Birch, the Pied Piper of Hamlin. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.